The board meeting will begin in 5 minutes. Okay, the May 8th State Board meeting will now come to order. Good morning and welcome to the May 8th, 2026 State Board of Education meeting. Board members, please, I'm just checking, make sure we have quorum. Yes, we do. Okay. Board members, please engage your microphones before speaking and turn them off when you're finished speaking. Please note that board members may be using their cell phones and laptop computers to access the agenda and information related to this meeting. Live streaming is available through the State Board of Education's website. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Kristen Christensen.
Here.
Maggie Douglas.
Here.
Lisa Schoenhoff.
Here.
Liz Renner.
Here.
Kirk Penner. Sherry Jones.
Here.
Elizabeth Tegmeyer.
Here.
Deborah Neri. Commissioner Maher.
Here.
6 present, 2 absent.
Quorum is established. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Information regarding the Open Meetings Act is posted as you enter the room from the main entrance doors. The Open Meetings Act is also posted on the State Board of Education's website. NDE staff member Brad Dirksen and guests, please join us at the front of the room for a special presentation.
Hello, and thank you for the time here. I'm Brad Dirksen, administrator here at the Nebraska Department of Education, and we're going to talk a little bit about National Apprenticeship Week, which was actually last week, but it was perfectly timed because we had a National Apprenticeship Week last week, Teacher Appreciation this week, and we're also celebrating our teacher apprentices and our teacher apprenticeship program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the teacher apprenticeship program and apprenticeship work at the Department of Education, and then pass it off to Sarah Doman and Rachel Grange here to introduce themselves and also tell them about their experiences within those programs. So a little context for apprenticeships at the Department of Education. There's a list of ways that the department engages in apprenticeship work throughout the state, but also being here in Bellevue, Nebraska, I'm also reminded that we also approve veterans education apprenticeship programs for veterans education benefits for military veterans, which I think is also a great tie to this local community that we're in today. The work at the agency crosses many different offices within the department, and also a reminder that this work is also foundational when we're looking at our priority 2 and our priority 3 of our strategic plan with growing the educator workforce and also equipping learners for the workforce. The apprentices are in the field learning those skills and expanding our teacher workforce and addressing the educator shortage. A couple highlights of the teacher apprenticeship program work that we've been engaging in. The work started fairly small with 25 apprentices. So it was a pilot program, and that program has now grown to over 200 apprentices. We started in 3 districts, and now we're at over 50 school systems statewide throughout the state, which is very exciting. 92% of our teacher registered apprentices that have completed the program have remained in the school districts that they were originally in. So retention and growing your own within their own school system shows a great sense of investment. And we're also right now at over 200 apprentices across the state that are currently in the program. It's not just that we're filling apprenticeship spots, we're filling teacher vacancies, which is extremely important, but we're also focusing where those apprentices are. And an example of that is 68% of our registered apprentices will complete their program, and they're on track to have a special education endorsement. So special education is, I know you all are aware, is one of our largest vacancies in the state of Nebraska. So this teacher apprenticeship program is not just addressing teacher shortage in general, but also focusing on those high needs areas. But I really want to spend most of the time here for the presentation to allow our guests to talk about, or first introduce themselves, talk about their experiences and what the apprenticeship program is to them.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Doman. I'm a student teacher at Swanson Elementary School. I had been working at the Westside District for about 5 years as an EA. During that time as an EA, my principal brought up the Grow Your Own program and told me that this would be a great fit for me. At first, it was a challenging decision because I was full-time employee. I have 2 little girls at home, going back to classes, having late night classes. It was going to be a tough decision for me. However, it was a great decision that I made. I knew from the first day as a special education assistant that teaching was a job for me. Knowing that this program would help me financially and allow me to successfully get a degree made my decision a lot easier. Through this program, I received guidance and mentorship that helped me better understand what it means to be an educator. For example, I was given opportunities to observe classes, participate in teaching activities, receive feedback on lesson planning, which helped me build confidence and practical skills. The support I received, whether through instructors, resources, or structured experiences, made a meaningful difference in helping me motivate and focus on my goals. It didn't just help me academically, but personally by encouraging me to believe that becoming a teacher is achievable. Because of this program, I feel more prepared and more confident in pursuing a career in education, and I'm grateful for the impact on my path. I would like to just highlight how the mentors in this program have been a key part of my educational journey and my goal to becoming a teacher. Their support has gone beyond basic instruction. They have actively guided, encouraged, and helped me grow in challenges. For example, my mentor took the time to work one-on-one to strengthen my skills in areas like lesson planning, classroom management, and academic strategies for every student. They provided constructive feedback that helped me improve and build confidence in my abilities. They also created opportunities for me to gain real-world experiences, such as observing classes, assisting with lessons, and working directly with students. These experiences helped me better understand what it means to be an effective teacher and prepare me for the responsibilities of this profession. I'm really excited from the transition from working as an EA to becoming a teacher. What excites me the most about this opportunity is just building relationships with the students. I want to get to know them individually, understand their unique goals, and support them in ways to help them grow and be successful. Being able to guide students and encourage them and see their progress is something truly I look forward to. I'm also excited to continue to work alongside coworkers. I love to collaborate and the chance to share ideas, learn from each other, and grow as educators. And I truly believe that working as a team ultimately creates a stronger environment for those students. And I'm truly grateful for the Grow Your Own program and strongly encourage anybody that's interested in being an educator to go this route.
Hello, everyone. I am Rachel Grange. I'm currently in the program. I just finished my first year, so I have 3 weeks of summer break now before summer classes start. So my pathway into this program and into the school district is a little different. I actually was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years, and during that time, I was working in the schools with where my children go, and I thought, well, I want to do more of this. I was doing small group work with 3rd graders, and so I decided to become a para. And last year, I was just an instructional para. I wasn't a special education para, and I loved my small math groups. I loved building relationships with the children there, and so I decided to jump on this program. Little did I know I was going to be moving to special education, and I was terrified. I was scared. I had never been in that role before. And Dr. Bell told me I was perfect for it. And so I wish I would have been a special education para my first year because I love it so much this year. With being in school, I am fully online. And it is challenging. I don't get to go into classrooms up at Midlands. I do every Tuesday nights, and I do 2 classes for about 45 minutes, and it kind of switches off between every other classes every other week. And on top of that, I have my own kids. I work full time. I am part of the PTO at my child's school, so I was a little stretched thin at some points, but being in this program and working with these children have made me want to be a special education teacher. First I was like, I have a special heart with 3rd grade because I loved it so much last year. And this year, my mind shift has completely changed. I love special education. That's where I want to be. And my team that I work with, not just my special education teachers, but my paras, we are a team. We are working together and constantly we're communicating all the time. I do have my cooperating teacher that I work with one-on-one through my classes in Midlands, but it's not just her that helps me, it's all my teachers in my special education team. And it's great because I get to see the difference in the way they teach their kids, and I can put it all together to become the best special education I can when I graduate this program next year. I encouraged, multiple people in my school that were thinking about doing the program to join it, try it. I know that one of the special education paras is in the program and she will be starting in the summer. So I'm so excited for her. I hope to guide her in any way that I can help, and I will continue to offer up this program to any other instructional para or special education para, because I just think it's the best way to go, and I'm so excited for my future in education.
Any board members have any questions?
I just have maybe one comment. Both Sarah and Rachel, it sounds like you are getting just what you need to prepare you to be teachers, and that's really exciting to hear. And since this is a relatively new program, I would encourage you, or maybe you can tell us today, if there's any suggestions that you have to making it even better for you, we would sure like to hear it, or any comments you have now about that, I would appreciate.
See. So my experience is different than yours, but I will tell you I am a visual learner, and over the summer we had online classes, and I would have probably preferred that to be in person, but that would be the only thing is that I just love learning in the classroom. It's helpful because then I can also talk to my teacher right then and there and ask questions, but that would be the only thing I would change. But I'm a visual learner, so. But
I think for my aspect in being completely online, the single class a week, and then having different classes the second week, it can be difficult because you have to get 2 weeks of lessons in that one 45-minute class. So I know we're all so stretched busy and thin with everything, but even like having like an open class time during a second class time during that week that you have with your 2 science classes to ask any questions or go in to have any sort of help with an assignment might be nice to have, just because only seeing each other for every 2 weeks can be kind of difficult. But having an open communication with them would be awesome for an extra day.
Yeah, I would encourage you to give that input to those in charge. Thank you for that.
Yeah, real quick, and I came in late. How many credit hours did you have to take, or are you having to take? And did you have your bachelor's before you started?
yes, I did.
You did, okay.
Sorry, yes.
It does kind of vary between different programs because it depends upon what they come in with. So Sarah coming in with a bachelor's degree, she has the less amount of credit hours. There is the credit hours are outlined in Rule 24 for the specific endorsement, but the board has taken or given the ability for the educator preparation programs to reduce those credit hours in half for the endorsements, and also has provided a lot of flexibilities in regards to demonstrating competency. So the programs are easily completable within the 2 years based upon the structures because of the flexibility that the board's provided. But whether the person comes in with a bachelor's degree or has an associate's degree or less is all going to vary in regards to the amount of credit hours they'll need to complete for the entire program.
Okay, that's kind of what I want to know. Make sure what we were doing was helping expedite the process because it was long at one point. Thank you.
I have one question. Thank you both for being here. And it's so great to hear your stories. I'm curious, you may have mentioned, but how did you find out about the program? And was there something that you could point to that was kind of your aha, yes, I'm going to do it? moment? And do you have a sense of what other people in your cohorts, how they found out and what pushed them to do the program?
So I found out actually through an email through our district, and I went on to their online kind of, hey, this is what the program is all about. So I went into the Google Meet and I learned about it, and I thought, I want to do this. I know in my school I actually have another para that's doing it with me currently. So I knew I wanted to do it when I had the support from a first grade teacher that I went and talked to, and I talked to my principal, and she said, do it. And I talked to my family. They were very encouraging, and my principal last year had said, how about you just go and you shadow being a special education para and see if this is right for you. And I shadowed for 2 days, and I said yes. And I actually emailed Dr. Bell before I had talked to my principal, because I was so sure that I wanted to do it. And then he had told the principal, and she goes, I think you have something to tell me. And so I told her that I accepted the program position, and I was on my way to becoming a special education teacher.
So for my experience, I remember this vividly. My principal was the one that brought up the Grow Your Own program, and it was the first year that he brought it up. I was nervous about change, and I was like, but I love being an EA here. Like, I love who I work with. I love the kids. But he's like, but you're gonna be a great teacher. You should do this program. And honestly, it wasn't until the next year, he was persistent. He's like, Sarah, you should do this. I'm like, okay. And then all the factors about, having 2 girls at home, like, just, it would be a change, but immediately I was like, you know what, you're right. I love this field. This is what I want to do. I'm going to do this. And I mean, actually, my principal was the one that encouraged me, which I'm grateful for. And to answer your question about other educators going into the program, I honestly, because I loved it so much, EAs that were at my school, I was like, you should do this. Like, you're gonna really like it, and I can see that you have a drive for this education field. Like, I think that you would love it. And so I was just actively telling other EAs that this is something that you should consider.
Thank you, and thank you for recruiting. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? All right, well, Brad, thank you for bringing in Sarah and Rachel. This was so interesting and great to hear firsthand. Thank you. The next item of business is the Commissioner's report. Commissioner Maher, please provide your report.
Thank you. First, there are 2 items that have been identified to be removed from the consent agenda. If board members wish to remove additional items from the consent agenda, please fill out the form at this time. The items to be removed will be moved from the consent agenda, will be taken up under additional business. Those items are 6.7.A and 6.3.B. Well, board members and those in the audience and those tuning in virtually, it is a pleasure to address you here this morning. I want to start by thanking our hosts from the Bellevue Public Schools, specifically Dr. Jeff Rippey, who's in the room, Superintendent of the Bellevue Public Schools, Colonel Russell, who had an opportunity to be with us yesterday, Jessica Lawfrey, elementary principal at Peter Sarpy Elementary, and Amanda Oliver with the Communications Department. We greatly appreciated the chance to see your schools in action yesterday with the tour, and are grateful for the hospitality that you have demonstrated to us over the last 2 days. We recognize that the first or second week in May probably isn't the prime time to disrupt a school setting, but you did it and did it seemingly with ease from our perspective. For us to call you and to ask you to disrupt what you would ordinarily do so that we could host a board meeting in your community is truly appreciated on our end. The list of folks that I should thank is much longer than the list that I did thank. So those of you who I did thank, if you would please pass that on, we would sure appreciate it. And thanks again for your hospitality. Well, the end of the school year is always an incredibly busy one for our students and our educators and for those of us at the Department of Education. Since our last meeting in March, we've had all of our career and technical student organization state conferences, and I was delighted to attend several of those to see our students in action. We've also hosted the end of the year Superintendent Advisory Committee and the Non-Public School Leader Advisory Committee to share important updates and, most importantly, to get direct input from those who are in the field. I always value the input from our school leaders and have appreciated their contributions over the last year in informing the work of the department. As you all know, the legislature adjourned on April 17th. I wanted to provide a brief update to the full board on our next steps with implementation of activities from that particular session. Our team has been hard at work sifting through the new provisions of law. Yesterday, we briefed the executive committee on roughly 11 bills and how those bills will impact our school system, the work of the agency, or in many cases, both. Most of the new provisions will not take effect until July of this year, but in the meantime, staff are meeting with office administrators, external partners, and other state agencies to map out what is next for implementation. These implementation topics may include tweaks or updates to current rules, the establishment of new programs, revisions to current programs and processes, communication of new projects, programs, or requirements, and deeper collaborations with partners to implement joint work. We'll keep the board updated on implementation through the executive committee, and while it seems a long way off, we'll also begin conversations with the committee on our legislative priorities for the next biennium aligned to our strategic plan. Significant work has been taking place on implementing our strategic plan. As a reminder, the first three priorities: accelerate student achievement, grow the educator pipeline, and equip learners for the workforce, have cross-agency teams digging into data, inventorying work, and developing action plans. These action teams have been engaging in productive struggle, working through preconceived notions, and digging into root causes. Do you like that phrase, productive struggle? Come on, I thought it'd be a bigger chuckle than that. Underlying and working with underlying data and learning about work occurring in other parts of the agency. We are watching these teams break down silos as they actively engage in cross-agency collaborative approaches while they continue to do the great work that they are tasked with in each of their typical job duties. The action teams have been answering the fundamental question, what will it take to reach these metrics by the year 2030? They're planning futuristically for actions needed and those strategic levers which should be pulled today. Our action teams are led by three incredibly talented NDE staff, Dottie Huisman, Dr. Deco Jean-Baptiste, and Sydney Kobza, and we're thankful for their vision and their leadership in this process. Overall, the progress has been outstanding, and we look forward to sharing more with you on this progress in the coming months. The fourth priority, the more internal-facing priority, is that of providing exceptional service, is being operationalized by each of our Nebraska Department of Education offices. As a reminder, this priority focuses on improved agency-wide efficiency, increased responsiveness and communication, and improved capacity building. Each of our NDE offices had the same task: to work with their teams to develop operational plans focused on improving those three strategic outcomes. Several key themes have emerged which will support agency-wide efforts. Next month, I'll have a more in-depth presentation on what we're seeing in these operational plans, but know that our agency has taken this task of providing exceptional work and service seriously, and are already hard at work. Rest assured, the strategic plan is not collecting dust on a shelf. My office, led by Deputy Commissioner Four, Lane Carr, and Jessica Jaworski, continue to monitor support the strategic plan implementation. We look forward to keeping you, the schools throughout our state, and all Nebraskans apprised as we further develop our work. Finally, I wish everybody who has the honor of the distinction of mother a very happy Mother's Day, and to Board Member Pinner and myself, don't forget it's Sunday. So happy Mother's Day to all of you who have that distinction. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next item, NDE staff member David Jesperson, please make your way to the front of the room for a brief introduction of Sarah Hardin, 2026 Nebraska Teacher of the Year, a high school science teacher from Mullen High School in Mullen, Nebraska.
Good morning, David Jesperson, Office of Public Information and Communications. And I will keep it brief today because Sarah's got this thing in the bag. She's doing a great job already. Commissioner mentioned we're ending the school year soon. I'm just going to be generous and say we only doubled the amount of work that she's done in the first semester, or this semester. I know it's probably more like tripled with the travel. We had her come down today. It was only, I thought it was a 4.5-hour drive. She reminded me it was a 5-hour drive from Mullen to visit with you and give the quarterly report. But she's been making a lot of trips similar to that to teacher colleges across the state, talking to new and prospective teachers and spreading the good word there. We did find out that Leon Smith from Pennsylvania is the National Teacher of the Year, so they missed out on Sarah, but we get to keep her in state because the national ends up going nationally, so actually I'm pretty pleased that she'll continue traveling the state for us, including upcoming presentations at NDE Day in July. So she has a lot more that she'll share with you, so I will introduce now Sarah Hardin from Mullen.
Thank you, David. I keep reminding him that when you live in the Sandhills, you drive everywhere we go, so it's really okay. I'm used to it. Thanks for having me again. It's really good to be here. And I just wanted to start by saying I think it's really cool that Sarah and Rachel were here ahead of me, because one of the big overarching themes that I've seen across the state, they both mentioned. So I want to talk about that with you today. And so I started my conversation with you in January with my goals for the year. So this was my slide, and I just kind of wanted to remind you of my goals and some of the big things. If you remember, I'm a non-traditional teacher. So to hear from two people that are going that route is really exciting, I think, and is a really hopeful feeling for educators across the state. And so one of those things, those goals, was to broaden the path to teaching for people like myself and Rachel and Sarah, and also to support, encourage learning that's hands-on. If you remember, I do a lot of hands-on stuff in my classrooms, and a piece of that is because the kids also feel that online education is not always as effective for them. And so we get away from technology sometimes, and we do a lot of hands-on. And also I want to create classrooms where every student feels like they belong. And those goals have definitely expanded or evolved for me, but still within those same ideas. And so not only do I want to make students feel like they belong, but I think a bigger piece right now too is also that educators are feeling connected and that they belong. And so that has been a big idea for me carrying forward through the rest of the year. I continue to support hands-on learning that's relevant, but as I'm going to talk about later, what we've seen in Nebraska this year is also important to be community-centered. And then I want to broaden and strengthen and encourage the path into teaching with programs like they talked about this morning, and I'm also going to mention those today. And then, as David mentioned, our CCSSO organization and representing Nebraska on that national scale. So we'll start with that. David and I were fortunate to travel to San Jose together to Googleplex, and I thank him for being a great leader for me as well, and a great contact and support. So in California, all 56 states and territories Teacher of the Year were there, which is the first time they said since they could remember that we had all been together. And I will tell you, that was an amazing experience just to meet those people and to connect with those people. Dave and I sat down the first night next to the gentleman from Washington, D.C., and I found out he had been nominated for Grammys with his students. And so I think to myself, I build cardboard boats and spaghetti towers, and this guy's been nominated for Grammys with his students. So it's very humbling, but that incredible group of people that I've been able to learn from, and we still connect. And in fact, almost every single day, we're kicking ideas around and talking about what's happening in our states, and just the power of that collaboration, I think, is amazing. And to be able to bring that back to my fellow educators and students in Nebraska is really, really powerful for me. And so I think that's the biggest piece with that organization. And of course, being at Google, an AI focus was huge. We talked a lot about Gemini. We did some vibe coding, and to bring those skills back as well was definitely very, very meaningful, and some very powerful leaders at Google that we were able to learn from that week. So just incredible. Like I said, the people that you meet are certainly the most important piece to that. I have been so fortunate to be able to be part of the Educators Rising conference this spring, and was able to deliver a keynote. We did a little hands-on engineering challenge to start that, and 2 workshops. And I will tell you, those kids, wow, that gives you hope. They're excited. That the question and answer session I had with them and the questions that they had for me really give you hope about the kids that are wanting to do this job, and some really meaningful things that we talked about. So I was really blessed to be part of that conversation with those students. Also at Midland, I was fortunate to teach a guest lecture for 5 different classes as well, and got to meet some of those students. Same thing, just that feeling of excitement for education, and those students that are pursuing this as a career. It makes me feel really hopeful, and I hope to continue to be part of those conversations with those students. And then just a couple weeks ago, I was the keynote at the Nebraska Wesleyan WISE Etch the Arch celebration for their educator students as well. I also have presented at several different workshops. The NERCSA conference, I presented with my team of continuous improvement individuals at Mullen Public Schools, which was the first time I had been able to participate in that and kind of share what we've done at Mullen Public Schools. Also, my own workshop on community connections and building those not only with your students, but also fellow educators. And just a couple weeks ago, I was at the NSEA Delegate Assembly and happened to run in some fellow Nebraska Teachers of the Year from the past. So that was really exciting. If you remember, I'm also a volunteer EMT in my community, and one of my goals was to expand and to be able to contribute to the EMS education as well. And so I did present an instructor's course back in January, and presented to paramedics and flight medics on how to be effective teachers online, because I think that's something they lack in training. And I'm lucky enough to be invited back for a couple more classes this fall. And of course, the kids keep me grounded at Mullen. I still am doing lots of hands-on projects. Just this week on Monday, that picture in the middle is our cardboard boat challenge. And it drew the biggest crowd this year. We had to take a bus out to the pond to get everybody out there. And people from the public. Just a really fun way for kids to do some engineering and real world challenges. And no, they did not all make it across the pond. I'm also a track coach. I'm missing a track meet this morning, go Broncos. And so I continue to do that, as well as, of course, EMS work. And then in June, I will be taking our first trip to Alaska for a science-based field trip. My students. We've been going to Florida the last 12 years, so we're really excited to try something new. And probably the biggest thing at the school that I have helped develop this year is the geothermal greenhouse. I think I mentioned that when I was here in January, and we have been very successful, maybe a little bit too much. I'm constantly trying to give away produce, so we're trying to figure out down the line what we're going to do with that. But one of the collaborations we've made is with our culinary arts class, and so we grow it, pick it, they cook it, and we all get to eat it, so we get to benefit from that. And that's been a really cool experience to try to make more of those collaborations within even our own school. We also wanted to share our flowers with somebody. They were so beautiful and peaceful that we started a Smiles and Stems program where we randomly draw students and staff. And the kids who have no experience in this at all, but they build beautiful arrangements and we take them around the school. So that's been really fun. And the last thing I want to talk about in terms of what I have done is just some school visits. It is hard living in the Sandhills to be able to visit as many places as I would like, but I have been able to do that some this year. And just being able to listen to students and educators at all levels has been a really valuable experience for me. And there's a lot of themes that keep coming up over and over and over again. And some of the questions that I ask are, for example, what keeps you in education? Not only what brought you here, but what keeps you here? Because I think teacher retention is also a concern right now. And as Rachel and Sarah both mentioned, the overarching theme between kids, adults, at every level, is you want to stay in a place where you feel connected. And I don't know if you heard Sarah mention that a mentor brought her in and talked to her about the Grow Your Own program. And Sarah felt like she had a team, Rachel had a team around her that really has helped develop the person that she is. And I think I was overlooking the importance of that conversation with teachers and students and community and connection. And so moving forward, I've continued to talk about that the last few weeks. And here's why. So a couple big things stood out to me. Lexington. Lexington has experienced some turmoil in their community and a lot of unknowns, and really feeling like they were in a place of uncertainty for their school. But when I visited that school, the kids and the adults alike talked about how safe they felt there, how connected they felt in that community and that school. And I thought that was really powerful, right? So like there's all this going on around them, but how important the school was for those kids. And then of course in the Sandhills and many parts of Nebraska have been the fires. Our school, this was actually taken by my fellow EMTs outside of our ambulance, these two pictures. This was a night just a few weeks ago. We had, many of our students had to evacuate their homes. Many people have lost a lot of things. And when you talk to the kids and they come back to school, maybe after being up all night, that power that they have when they come into the school to feel safe and feel like people are there for them has really, really been inspirational. And I think that's a big piece in Nebraska for all of us, and how important it is that we show up for each other. And so, again, I've kind of shifted some of my conversations to center around community and connections for adults and students alike. So moving forward, I have several things that I have on my calendar. I'm invited back to a few different Educators Rising events this fall. And I think for those to be expanded to more rural schools, I had never heard of that program until this year. And when I went to the conference this spring, there were no small schools represented. So I really want to see that expanded to the smaller schools across the state. In particular, Grow Your Own with our ESU, I've already been in conversations about how can we get this in our program. I've talked to her, or into our schools, I've talked to our administration, and I think that's really important because I would like our small school students to be part of those conversations. I'll also be participating in Space Camp in July and other CCSSO learning opportunities with my cohort. I have several workshops I have this summer that I will be attending and presenting at, and as I mentioned, continuing to support strong school and community connections. I think that's really, really the heart of education. So that's all for me, but I did mention another piece with literacy that we would be doing in our school, and I wanted to give them a little shout out before I leave you today. So we were talking about 10 at 5 at the January meeting, and I mentioned two of our teachers, Mrs. Stacy Vinton and Mrs. Emily Stitchka, and they set up for the first time at our family STEM night a literacy table. And so that went over very well. Their table was full all night, and they did a great job with connecting families to literacy and really making that exciting and fun. And that's an event where we require families to be there so that it's a family event. So I wanted to leave you with that. And I thank you so much for the opportunity that you have given me.
Thank you, Sarah, for coming. It's kind of a thrill for me. District 7 shining. I'm just really excited. You were chosen out of all the teachers who were nominated and applied because the committee felt like you really exemplified, and yet you continue to just show us through your presentation how learning isn't stagnant. Even when you're considered Teacher of the Year, you're growing and you're changing, you're evolving your goals. And I just really appreciate that. And I think that's what keeps learning exciting for students, is when teachers don't pull out the lesson plans from 30 years ago, but they continue to find ways to spark interest and within themselves, which then spills over to their students. So thank you for that. And our heart obviously goes out to all of the families who have been affected in the communities. And it has been very encouraging to see Nebraskans pull together. So thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Lisa?
I think the whole presentation was just amazing, but specifically the hands-on learning that you do with kids, I just think that is, clearly those kids are excited to come to your classroom, and that's one of the most important things we can do to keep kids in school. And doing the boats, I mean, that's just so fun. And the garden and giving the flowers, and I just think all of it is exactly what we need more of in our classrooms, because that is the real kind of learning that kids need. So thank you for your work with that. Oh, and How to Catch a Leprechaun. What a great way to get communities into the school based on fun books, because there's so many fun books. And so what a great way to get kids reading. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Enjoy your time in the big city before you head home.
I'm going to try to catch the track meet now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, have a great trip home. Okay. Item 3.3, NDE staff member Chris Lawson, please make your way to the front of the room for a brief presentation. And I am just going to say that I specifically reached out to the commissioner to request a presentation on AI because it's not happening in the future, it's happening right now. And I feel like we as a board need to be more proactive than reactive so that we can support our schools and our individual classroom teachers. Because if we're not talking about this, I don't know how many school leaders are, so is all of this falling onto our classroom teachers to figure out? That's a very difficult lift, and so I am excited to hear what our new, are you called IT director?
I'm called the Information Systems Officer. Basically, I perform as a CIO.
Okay, our new CIO. This is really our first time to have a presentation with you, so thank you.
Yes, thank you, and welcome, and I'm happy to be here to present to you today. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. AI is, the experts promise us that it can improve manufacturing operations, agricultural operations, helping physicians predict and treat illness. It's in our schools today. Students are using it staff, teachers are using it, and at home. Just think of your phone, the computer that you're on. Gosh, this morning, our refrigerator told my wife that we needed more milk and a few other things. She told it to send me the grocery list. So there are benefits, but there are also risks, and risks are what is guiding the NDE approach to understanding and implementing, where appropriate, artificial intelligence tools. This is part one of a two-part briefing. You'll hear today about what NDE is doing at a department level, kind of focusing inward to support our employees and the functions that we do. At a future board meeting, you'll hear about part two, the implications of AI on workforce development and what is happening in our schools that teachers and students are doing with artificial intelligence. Short agenda for you. I'm going to spend about the next 10 minutes telling you how we are moving forward with artificial intelligence at the department. We thought it prudent to look at the state of Nebraska approach to AI. There are policies and procedures already in place in the state for the various departments, agencies, and government entities regarding the use of AI. The Nebraska Information Technology Council has issued a policy and guidance that sets forth how Nebraska government agencies should adopt and use AI with a focus on security and compliance, because one of the big risks, certainly one that I'm concerned with, is the accidental or inadvertent exposure of sensitive data. Think all of the student data that NDE collects and aggregates and reports. We want to protect that as best we can. There have been some legislative developments in the last couple of years, some bills passed and others considered, mainly focusing on artificial intelligence to protect consumers and children, the mental health of children, and an interim study to look at the current status of AI occurring across the state. There have been executive orders regarding the development and use of AI regulations and guidance. Nebraska's governor has stated that he has a team looking at this. We want to promote the reasonable use of AI and not increase the risk to citizens, and especially our teachers and students. So the practical implications of what the state are doing is treat these AI tools as tools, apply governance and transparency, and especially security controls. Make sure that humans review the products of these AI tools, because as you've probably read, they're not all 100% accurate, and some of them, the outputs of these AI tools, are not ethical and in some cases illegal. But to summarize, the current policy in Nebraska blends agency-specific standards. The legislature is very interested in this. Our business community is extremely interested in this, and our teachers and our students are as well. NDE is looking inward in the role of AI in streamlining educational administration operations within the department. My team has researched what other states are doing, collecting their policies and best practices. We are separating the NDE approach for the department, which is largely administrative functions, from the ESU's district and school approach, because we respect that idea of local control. We want to give superintendents and principals the information they need to make smart decisions about how AI is utilized in their classrooms. So NDE will be producing a policy that guides our employees and then providing best practices and guidelines to the ESUs and school districts for how best to approach AI oversight in their domain. Where we're at right now is we are defining use cases, which you'll see here in a minute, developing governance and security controls around the use of AI within the department. What are other states doing? This is a table of the inquiries. I've reached out to my counterparts in all of these states, and my team has talked to people at their level to see what are other states doing. There are some states out there that are doing very good when it comes to the implementation of AI in the classroom. Georgia, leads the pack, Mississippi right behind. Nebraska, we are moving forward in a pragmatic and risk averse method to accomplish what we want to do. We surveyed our staff, over 283 responses. That big jump is from the vocational rehab group. They are very strong on the implementation of AI tools in what they do. The most common types of use cases we have are communication support, data analysis, basically administrative efficiency, making our processes and procedures within the department more efficient, freeing time up for our staff members to do more, focusing on the major programs we have. There's a large demand for speech-to-text tools, ADA compliance when it comes, Americans with Disability Act compliance when it comes to websites and printed materials, and then student and client services. There must be 300 different AI tools circulating today, and this is just a small handful of the ones that we have been looking at and our staff have been asking about. Our approach is going to be to enable some of the tools, the AI tools that are already embedded in our computers, in the Microsoft operating system, in the Office 365 suite, monitor that use, and then carefully and pragmatically enable other tools if there's a business case or a need from our program directors to help them do their jobs. Our staff is interested in AI training, tools, and literacy to help understand what the capabilities and limitations are of AI tools. You can see a short list here. During our survey, there were a number of mentions about how can I use ChatGPT to improve my communication skills? How can I use SharePoint or OneDrive or these Microsoft tools that have AI embedded to produce better PowerPoint presentations, better emails, better communications, and there are other uses as well. Our staff confidence in using AI tools is strong. These bar charts indicate that staff have reported they're confident in using the tools, but they want more training, and that makes sense. We need to educate our staff members on the proper use of AI tools, the do's and don'ts, so that we don't put our data or our agency or our board, our state at risk. The team we formed, AI at NDE or Andy, has created this initiative to look at aligning AI usage with our strategic plan. There are a number of use cases that could help accelerate student achievement, grow the educator pipeline, develop learners for the workforce. There are a number of good use cases that we are looking at, and we're going to pilot, as I mentioned, a couple embedded tools and evaluate that result to see how it best contributes to our strategic plan. We're thinking about internal considerations, and a couple I want to point out. The external considerations that partners, the community would think about when they hear or read that NDE is adopting some AI tools. We want to be careful in that message with security and privacy at the forefront of that communication to make sure to build confidence and trust in NDE's approach to AI. There are costs. Not all these tools are free. Some of them cost money. There are ethical considerations about how AI could be used here at the department or in the classroom, and then some uncertainty that we need to fully understand as we move down this path. Our next steps include procuring some literacy tools for AI that our staff can use. We want to build awareness and competencies in the use of these AI tools before we turn them loose on the staff. We're going to be engaging our stakeholders, both internal and external here, the board and the public, at some point to talk about our approach to AI. Our primary concern is data privacy and security. We want to make sure that the student data that we are entrusted with is protected and not exposed to any kind of undue risk. We're going to give our staff guidance on what is and is not allowed. We've developed a draft policy that our team is fine-tuning right now before we submit it to the policy evaluation and approval team. There's two parts: the policy itself, 2.5 pages that talk about the AI implementation for the department, and then a lengthy internal operating procedure with all the do's and don'ts that our employees will need to make sure they use AI responsibly. Some of the do's and don'ts are listed here. We're producing a one-pager that all employees will have at their desktop so that they can quickly refer to if they're using an AI tool and they wonder, hey, should I be trying this? Should I be trying that? And there will be access to technical information if they need that. In summary, NDE is proceeding pragmatically with the implementation of AI tools in the department. We're also collaborating with the Office of the CIO at the state, the ESU Coordinating Council, and a number of other Nebraska organizations to make sure that we are proceeding carefully, that we're not accepting risk in the implementation of these AI tools, and basically, and most importantly, that we are going to serve the students, the teachers, ultimately the parents of Nebraska schools with a smart approach to AI that they can trust, that they can use in their lives. With that, I'd like to see if there are any questions.
I just have a personal question for you, Chris. You seem to be very knowledgeable about AI, and I'm wondering if you could share your background and experience in this field.
Sure. Well, I've been a cybersecurity practitioner for 18 years in organizations large and small, including the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C., the Department of Veterans Affairs, the University of Nebraska system, and a few other public and private assignments. AI tools have been advertised in the last couple of years or so, really blowing up in availability and capability. But they've been around in the background for a number of years. How long have we had Siri or Gemini on our phones? Those are AI-driven tools. In the places that I've worked before, there's basically two approaches. The leadership of an organization says, AI is the future and I want it now. And people will ask, well, what does that mean for education or healthcare? And the leaders will say, well, I don't know, but we just need it. That can be a risky approach. So everywhere that I've been where we have tried to implement AI tools in the day-to-day operations, the most successful and the least risky approach is to consider one or two tools at a time, train the staff on their use, evaluate, do these AI tools that we're adopting make sense? Do they help the organization or hinder it? And then move forward slowly. That's the approach that I'm trying to take with the support of NDE leadership to make sure that we're doing it right.
I just want to say I really appreciate the cautious approach because, you know, cell phones, smartphones really exploded about the 20-teens. And, you know, we gave them to our kids, and now we're seeing the impact and the, you know, 15 years of research of what that's done. And that's why I think we need to get out ahead a bit of AI and kind of think it through, because our kids are already accessing it and using it, and they're excited. And I also appreciate that you are very focused on security. As the wife of an IT director, we have had a few incidents lately. You know, cyber attacks are coming more and more frequently, and so I appreciate that really heavy focus on securing student data and proprietary information to protect our students. So thank you for your work. I really appreciate your presentation. Don't have a lot of questions yet at this time, but I'm looking forward to kind of that guidance document that will help our schools, because this is a lot, and I think that they would appreciate something like that. And some of them may already have one, but I would guess a lot of them don't. So that's just my comments. Any other board members' comments or questions? Maggie.
When you were talking about the interim study, did you say, is it AI just related to education, or is it AI in general?
It's statewide use of AI in various business and industry verticals, including education.
Okay, and then do they include NDE in this study? Like, do you guys have direct involvement in that?
We've been asked a few questions about how we might approach supporting this study, but nothing more than that.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, item 4, President's Report. And this is probably my favorite report to give, which is not none, you guys. I know you thought it was. May is Teacher Appreciation. We've just had Teacher Appreciation Week. We think about the end of school. They're as excited as our kids are, and as we are to get our kids home for the summer and do some fun things. Not that school isn't fun, but this is the time of year that I just always love to acknowledge. We've all had a special teacher who have impacted our lives, and I also just love to acknowledge the teachers in the room. So everyone who's been a teacher, please, or are currently a teacher, please stand up. Thank you for your service. And that concludes my report. A little less windy than you, Commissioner. We now move on to our public comment period. This period may be available to any person who wishes to address the board on any matter that is on the agenda or within the board's authority to act. Up to 90 minutes will be allowed for the public comment period. A majority of members present and voting may take action to extend the total amount of time allowed for public comment period. A majority of members present and voting may also take action to allow or terminate public comment at any time during a meeting. If you are not signed in and wish to speak, please sign in at this time. Those wishing to speak must be signed in at the table outside the meeting room. Each individual speaking to the board will be required to complete a sign-in card for identification of oneself. Individuals are required to include on the sign-in card their name, address, name of any organization represented, and agenda item or topic that is within the board's authority to act. Individuals may be prohibited to speak in public comment if the sign-in card does not include the required information. Persons speaking to the board during public comment should state their name, city, and state at the beginning of their allotted time, and may submit printed materials for the board, but may not use any other form of media. Anyone refusing to be identified will be prohibited from speaking. Each person may address the board for up to 5 minutes. A majority of members present and voting may take action to reduce or extend the amount of individual time allotted to all speakers. If at any time persons appearing before the board exceed the time limitations set forth in this policy or on the agenda, or become abusive or threatening in language or behavior, it shall be the responsibility of the president to refuse permission to continue to address the board. We have one public comment card submitted. Vice President Renner will announce the name of the speaker.
Yes, we invite Jared Robertson to come to the podium.
Hello, I'm Jared Robertson from Gretna, Nebraska. Members of the board, superintendents, and esteemed community members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to express my strong support for allowing Nebraska Air National Guard recruiters equitable access to our high school students during school hours. As a military recruiter and a parent within Gretna District, I am calling for an immediate end to the restrictive policies at Gretna, Gretna East, and Beatrice high schools. Currently, students are being denied access to vital career information that offers debt-free education and professional development opportunities that are freely granted to universities and private corporations. This is in direct violation of Nebraska Revised Statute 79-2-156-3. The school board of each student or each school district shall adopt a policy to provide military recruiters the same access to a student in high school grade as is provided to post-secondary educational institutions or to prospective employers of such students. As educators and community leaders, our shared goal is to prepare students for successful, fulfilling lives after graduation. We recognize that there is no single path to success. For some, it is a four-year university. For others, it is entering the workforce. And for a significant and vital portion of our student body, it is service in the United States Armed Forces. 36% of those that join the Armed Forces in 2025 join the Nebraska National Guard. We are told military is treated equally, but my experience says otherwise. During parent-teacher conferences, I saw UNL and UNO granted full displays and recruitment access. When I asked how they were allowed there, a counselor told me they just pick and chose those schools just because. Meanwhile, at Gretna East, and Beatrice, I am restricted to 30 minutes before or after school. How can we provide vital information if the students aren't even there? I have been blocked by administrative staff who have implicitly implied their districts are too good for the military. This elitist gatekeeping is unacceptable for a public school district. It is my understanding that these are public school districts within a community whose sole existence is to educate and provide students with opportunities. Air National Guard recruiters are repeatedly told that military is treated equally to colleges and businesses in our schools. The reality on the ground proves otherwise. Let's look at the stark contrast in how post-graduation paths are presented to our students. Universities and colleges, representatives from schools like UNL and UNO are granted prime access during school hours and parent-teacher conferences, actively supported by counselors, yet their path often asks what a student can pay, frequently leading to a lifetime of crippling student loan debt. Private corporations. Businesses are welcomed in for career fairs to fulfill their immediate operational needs. While a valid path, they are profit-driven and do not inherently guarantee long-term professional development, housing, or comprehensive health care. The National Guard distinction. It is critical to understand that the National Guard is distinct from active duty. We are not pushing your graduates to pack up and move across the country or overseas right after high school. Instead, the Guard is uniquely designed to keep students home during these critical first years of their adult lives. They do not have to choose between a degree and serving their country. They can do both simultaneously. Utilizing state tuition assistance in the GI Bill, they can attend college full-time right here in Nebraska, debt-free, while continuing to grow into responsible young adults surrounded by their families. Because our structure keeps students local, our mission is fundamentally homegrown. When you restrict access to our recruiters, you are blocking the very organization that allows young adults to give back to Nebraska, such as emergency response with devastating floods, fires, severe winter storms. Community investment, we provide a path for students to gain discipline, leadership, and technical skills and immediately reinvest those talents back into the communities that raised them. According to 2026 Nebraska Higher Education Progress Report Executive Summary, the college continuation rate for 2023-2024 was 63.5%, which has declined from 71.5% 2013-2014. And Nebraska has experienced a net loss of 28,750 people with a bachelor's degree or higher to other states over the past decade. Being in the Guard will keep those jobs here. Building relationships with the Nebraska Air National Guard will gain the state of Nebraska an increased number of students who enter post-secondary education in Nebraska with the incentive of fully paid tuition. Increased percentage of students who learn resiliency and dedication to successfully complete a degree, and reduce, eliminate, and then reverse the net out migration of Nebraskans with high levels of educational attainment. I have one more page. Can I continue?
I'm sorry, we have a 5-minute limit.
Well, thank you for your time.
What I would encourage you to do is our emails are listed on the State Board of Education website. Would you mind emailing?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
I
you.
can do that.
Thank you. The board will take a 15-minute recess, and we will reconvene at 10:25.
Good.
Well, we're all back, so let's just resume. So the board meeting will come back to order. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, I move to adopt the consent agenda with the exception of items 6.7A and 6.3B.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Per board policy, there is no discussion on the motion to adopt the consent agenda. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Neary, Schoenhoff.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the consent agenda is adopted. The next item of business are the reports of the standing committees. I will report on behalf of the Executive Committee meeting. The Executive Committee reports on its May 7th, 2026 meeting. Members present were Chair Elizabeth Tegmeyer, Vice Chair Liz Renner, Sherry Jones, and Deborah Neary. The committee reviewed one action item. This item was the proposed revisions to the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education, NCTE, organizational policies, and NDE staff provided information on the proposed revisions. The committee recommends the board approve the proposed revisions. The committee also reviewed 3 information items. First, the committee received an update on legislative activity from NDE staff. Second, the committee received an update from NDE staff on special education activities. Finally, the committee discussed revisions to the commissioner's contract. This concludes the Executive Committee report. Elizabeth Tegmeyer, Chair. Are there any questions on the Executive Committee report?
I have some comments.
Okay, Sherry?
Yes. And this is in regard to the revisions of the NCTE document.
Do you feel like that would be more appropriate when we vote on that?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the report? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion on item 7.1.A?
Yes, I move to approve revisions to the NCTE organizational policies.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve revisions to the NCTE organizational policies. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sherry?
Yes, excuse me for jumping the gun. Yes, I am grateful for the revisions to the teacher membership of the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education, and I believe it's a good start. The State Board of Education will be nominating 4 individuals rather than 2. This will provide an opportunity for non-public school teachers and non-union public school teachers to have representation on this advisory board. The Nebraska State Education Association will be nominating 12 individuals. With the passage of LB 429, which gives equal teacher access to other professional organizations, I believe we'll need to monitor the enrollments of the various teacher organizations and adjust the NCTE teacher makeup as needed to provide fair representation. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this? Okay. The motion is to approve revisions to the NCTE organizational policies. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Neary, Penner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to approve revisions to the NCTE organizational policies is adopted. Item 7.2, Chair Kristen Christensen, sorry, it's a tongue twister, will report on behalf of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting.
The Budget and Finance Committee reports that at its Thursday, May 7th meeting, members present were Kristen Christensen, Kirk Penner, and Lisa Schoenhoff. The committee reviewed 8 action items, including grants for the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, Rural Health Transformation Projects, and Nebraska Teacher Apprenticeship Program, and contracts for Safe to Help NE Hotline, professional learning for leaders grounded in the science of reading, and for a career and technical education state model programs of study and standards revision project, which were all recommended for approval by the committee. The committee did not have a recommendation on the new and expansion early childhood grants. The last action item reviewed by the committee was the ACFR audit. The committee recommends approval of this item. The committee then reviewed one discussion item for board member travel expenses, noting no concerns. The committee also reviewed 13 information items, including contracts for DDS medical consultants, support the ATP education program, child program and family outcomes measurement systems, Results Matter, National Student Clearinghouse, the Nebraska Technology Initiative, a grants management system, USDA Child Nutrition Program System, and USDA Child Nutrition Monitoring and Compliance. The committee reviewed 2 grant items, including the Revision Action Grants and a potential State Implementation Fund grant. The last 3 information items reviewed were updates on the CLSD grant, expenditures, the single audit report, and a special education update. It was a long meeting, but we got through a lot, and this concludes the Budget and Finance Committee report.
Are there any questions on the Budget and Finance Committee report? No, just thank you. We know it was a lot. So thanks to the Budget and Committee members. Are there any questions on the reports in item 7.2.A? Is there a motion on item 7.2.B?
Yes, I move to authorize the commissioner to allocate 21st CCLC grant funds.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to allocate 21st CCLC grant funds. Is there any discussion on the motion? I have, oh, Lisa, go ahead.
Did you want to go?
Well, I would like to, no, you go first.
This is one that I just want to throw out there that I'm going to be visiting one of their programs, either whether it be after-school program or summer program, and I would invite anyone on the board to join me in that. I believe it's Erica. I haven't met her face-to-face yet, but she is going to set up that visit with us.
I have a question for committee members, and I'm kind of looking around for Dr. Rita. But in the rationale, it says that these programs create an after-school environment focused on 3 overarching goals. And the goals are listed as improving overall student academic success, increasing positive behavior and social interactions, and number 3, increasing active and meaningful family and community engagement. And if I remember right, we've had over 20 years of this grant program, and so I'm curious, in the committee, did you receive an update on the metrics for these goals? Do we have any metrics?
Are you asking
I'm asking if the committee members received any metrics on these goals.
on how they're measured or the outcomes of
The
those
outcomes.
goals? Yeah, there's, on their website, it is education.ne.gov, 21st CCLC program evaluation. They have their updated 24-25 school year fast facts infographic, so it's got data on all sorts of things, but those 3 areas are included.
They are.
on there.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. I just didn't know if that was shared or not, so I will not belabor that then. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the 21st CCLC grant funds?
I just want to make a comment, and this isn't hard data, this is anecdotal, but I had the opportunity to tour an elementary school in OPS towards the end of last year that they have an after-school program funded through these grants. And one of the things that was very interesting, it was an after-school program that's tied in with the Henry Dorley Zoo. And they said they have seen an increase in attendance, and in fact, kids that are sick tell their parents they want to go to school that day because they don't want to miss the after-school zoo program. And so it's anecdotal, but I do think a lot of these programs really do work towards that, that end in terms of addressing attendance.
Thank you. Okay, the motion is to authorize the commissioner to allocate 21st CCLC grant funds. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Neary. Christensen.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to allocate 21st CCLC grant funds is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.2.c?
Yes, I move to authorize the commissioner to approve the Rural Health Transformation Project funds. Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to approve the Rural Health Transformation Project funds. Is there any discussion on the motion? The motion is to authorize the commissioner to approve the Rural Health Transformation Project funds. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Douglas.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
Neary. Christensen.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to approve the Rural Health Transformation Project funds is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.2.d?
Yes, I move to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Safe to Help Any hotline.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Safe to Help Any hotline. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sherry?
Yes, I am wondering if the committee received any information about how much this Safe to Help hotline is being used. Is there any data available?
I believe this is Dr. Rita. Is she here today? She's down the hall. Is Jay Martin here? Yeah, come on up, please. Yes, and what we'll do is we will have Board Member Jones repeat her question for you. I know we're a little tight on space, so I know you didn't get to hear it because you weren't in the room. So thank you for coming in. And Sherry?
And I apologize. Usually I like to ask ahead of time, but I didn't catch either one of you yesterday or today. So, but I'm just wondering, how much is this? Do you know how much this is being used, this hotline? And do you have any data about this hotline's use?
My name is Jay Martin. I'm with the Nebraska Department of Education. I'm the School Safety and Security Director. And yes, we do have data. It's provided monthly through Safe to Help. From the length of the program, it started in 2020 to currently, there's been approximately 6,500 calls total. The top 3 calls that we get is number 1 is bullying and cyberbullying. Number 2 is suicide prevention. And then third is for drug calls. And then there's a series of other things that can occur after that. But that's kind of the consensus across. We currently have about 75% of the student base that is covered across the state. The other 25% are typically covered by another anonymous reporting. There are some schools that do not have them. Many of them that are not on our on this platform are non-public schools. but it is open to public and non-public schools.
Very good. Thank you. That's just what I needed to hear.
Yes.
I was taking notes and I missed, what was the time period for those 6,500 calls?
It started in 2020. I don't remember.
To present?
Yes, to present, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for coming in.
You bet.
Yep. The motion is to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Safe to Help Any hotline. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
Neary. Schoenhoff.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Safe to Help Any hotline is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.2.e?
Yes, I move to authorize the commissioner to approve Nebraska Teacher Apprenticeship Program funding.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to approve Nebraska Teacher Apprenticeship Program funding. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, the motion is to authorize the commissioner to approve Nebraska Teacher Apprenticeship Program funding. Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Neary. Christensen.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to approve Nebraska Teacher Apprenticeship Program funding is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.2.f? Kristen?
I move to authorize the commissioner to approve new and expansion early childhood grants. Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to approve new and expansion early childhood grants. Is there any discussion on the motion? Oh, yes, Maggie.
I just wanted to make a quick comment on this one. I really appreciated hearing from our superintendents across the state on this one. We heard from Minutair and Nebraska City, and I thought it was really helpful that they provided us with data and the importance of these grants. So we know that this is an across the state area of need, and I just wanted to share my gratitude for those districts. Thanks.
Any other comments? Lisa?
Yes, I actually wrote up a statement because of the lobbying that's been done over the past week. And I wanted to make sure that I was very transparent and thorough. This will be going up on my blog, on my website as well. So my statement is as follows. I would like to point out for the public that an early childhood education continuation grant was approved for over $2 million in today's consent agenda. This grant's purpose is to improve access to early childhood education and pre-kindergarten programs that are currently already receiving grants. The source of this money is the state general funds. Cutting these funds would put families that are already dependent on these programs in jeopardy. With that being said, it is irresponsible to continue to grow a program that is already costing up to $17,000 per pupil when including federal, state, and local dollars, according to the National Institute of Early Education Research. The Early Childhood Expansion Grant for over $1 million expands government-funded preschool classrooms across the state. It is important to note that between 2021 and 2025, our schools were flooded with federal relief money. Now that those funds have dried up, districts are shifting costs like the federal preschool development grant that is slated to end this year, along with other mental health and reading programs, directly onto the state general fund. This makes state spending look like it's jumping, but in reality, it's just taxpayers picking up the bill for lost federal subsidies. The Head Start Impact Study confirms that the academic gains of preschool largely disappear by the 3rd grade. We are spending record amounts for short-term boosts that
level out within a few years or less, and I can say that as a first grade teacher. As many mothers know, children develop at different rates. Many parents choose to hold their children back from kindergarten because a 5-year-old's brain is often not ready for the rigors of formal reading and sitting in a classroom all day. Pushing academic burdens earlier isn't always better for the child. Transitioning to a full day of school can be tough, but with adequate classroom management and skillful teaching in kindergarten and first grade, these challenges don't often last beyond the first several months of school. Finally, we must look at the Nebraska State Constitution, Section 7-1. It mandates that the legislature provide free instruction for those between the ages of 5 and 21. By expanding high-cost programs for those under 5, are we placing an unconstitutional, extravagant burden on the backs of hardworking taxpayers? At a time when Nebraskans are demanding tax relief, we must prioritize our constitutional mandates over optional high-cost expansions. We must weigh the reward against the cost. Thank you.
Sherry?
I'll add a few of my personal thoughts to what Lisa said. While I believe preschool may be beneficial for some children, I also believe it is not a requirement for future success. And I'm fairly certain that a number of individuals in this room that are very, I would say, quote, successful, did not have preschool. And I actually asked Dr. Maher, and to think that he became a commissioner of education without preschool. That's just amazing. So I would go on to say that if parents want to send their children to preschool, I say go for it. But taxpayers should not be expected to foot the bill. Taxpayers are graciously paying for our children to attend public schools with the average cost between $17,000 and $18,000 per student per year. At this rate, it would cost over $220,000 for a student's 13 years of schooling. And to note, 40% of Nebraska's budget is spent on education, second to Health and Human Services, which is 42% of Nebraska's budget. So that's 82% between education and Health and Human Services. As Lisa mentioned, data is not showing long-term gain for children. And what about our proficiency scores? Nebraska began piloting its formal early childhood education program in 1992. That's 34 years ago. Have our proficiency scores been positively impacted over those 34 years? What does the data show? I believe it's time to reassess our belief that preschool is a necessity and a taxpayer-funded obligation. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Maggie, yep, nope, that's fine.
This is a question, and I'm not sure who the right one is to answer this, but I'm wondering about the obligation we have with special education services
Yes.
before school age.
Let's bring Amy Roan up.
Oh, perfect.
She's looking at me like, are you? Everybody saw that look, right? Yeah, but I think she's the best person to address IDEA and early childhood. Is that okay? Or would you rather have us call Melody? I feel like you're most qualified in the IDEA space.
No, I apologize. I just wasn't prepared.
This is not your item. Yes, I know.
Amy Rowan, the Administrator and State Director of the Office of Special Education. Can you repeat the question?
I'm wondering, and I might need actual help with my question, but just the connection with our obligation of providing services before students are at compulsory age.
Okay, so under the IDEA, it is required that children, when entering what's considered school age, which begins at age 3, and having access to early childhood educational opportunity otherwise known as preschool or pre-kindergarten opportunities, have access to a full continuum. So IEP teams, once a child is identified with a disability, IEP teams must determine what is the best option for receiving their educational services, and one of those options must, the option must start with a regular early childhood classroom. And then from that beginning point, all of the continuums build out. So IEP teams look at, should the services be related to what they can and can't do, and it has to have the child must have access, and the educators must have access to comparing what that child can do related to their non-disabled peers. That's why it must start at the educational opportunities must start at the classroom level. So from there, there are multiple avenues for how they can do that at a district level. The biggest opportunity is if they have their own preschool classrooms. Rule 11, the early childhood regulations, require that if a classroom is being created in a district, that they must have a proportionate share of those seats made available to students with disabilities. So there can't be more students with disabilities in the classroom. There has to be a 51-49 split in order for it to be equivalent to the IDEA requirements. So obviously, if the district has access to those classroom opportunities, that is the best option for them. If not, they look at what the community has as far as environments, like a child care provider, private. There's no such thing as private schools in early childhood, but there are private home preschool environments or environments where in faith-based opportunities where non-disabled peers are participating, and that child with a disability could have that same access to education alongside their non-disabled peers. From there, if they do not have, because we do have communities in Nebraska that don't have private or homegrown opportunities, childcare opportunities, they look at providing those services in the home to the student and or like a child care facility, and then there isn't the comparison. So that's considered the most restrictive environment. So for districts, many of the districts in our state, they are looking to build their own preschool programs because then they can control the quality of services and educational access that students are given the affordability to receive.
Any other questions for Amy? Thank you. I know we put you on the spot. Okay. All right. Liz?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one comment before we wrap up discussion. And I don't have a prepared statement, and I'm not on the committee, so I'm kind of winging it. But I see this as not merely a grant about academic outcomes. I think this type of investment on the state level supports a larger kind of ecosystem of opportunity throughout Nebraska. I think it feeds into workforce development. It feeds into combating brain drain. If we want to attract people and retain people in our communities, we need to find ways to support their needs so they can go to school, so they can get jobs and build livelihoods. And so for that reason, I want to vote in favor of this. And I also want to say that the high quality early childhood education isn't just about setting people up to be education commissioners. It's also about easing kids and their families into our school systems. And I think that is exactly what they do and is an incredibly valuable investment. So I just wanted to add that to the lineup of comments about this grant.
So I I've spent a little time considering this. And what I did was I went into the statute, and I do appreciate when our staff are putting together their rationales, and if there's a statute governing things, that you include that. It makes my work easier when I'm researching. So I read State Statute 79-1103. And I did note something, and I think sometimes we receive so many different reports on this board that it becomes a blur. But I noted that on January 1st of every odd numbered year, the NDE, Department of Early Childhood Education, is required in statute to give an early childhood report evaluating the programs. So that's this January, that's coming up. I'm sure we've had those reports, and it's just been a blur, and it's gone right past me. I've probably sat here and heard them, and I don't recall. So I'm specifically going to look in January and listen for specific longitudinal data of the academic impact beyond third grade that we have in Nebraska. I want to know that this is having an impact. It is a significant investment. I'm hearing a lot of people in my district, property taxes are high. Very, very few of schools in western Nebraska receive any TIOSA funds. So it's all sitting on the backs of our property owners. And we want to make sure that funds that are being used really do affect the academic outcomes. And so I want to make sure that our preschool programs are academically necessary. Otherwise, we're just asking the Nebraska taxpayer to fund child care programs in our schools. And I'm not sure that that's something that I want to go forward with. However, at this time, I did not raise concerns 2 months ago when this was an information item. And so I am going to support the expansion for 2026. However, and we were lobbied heavily by districts who would like to receive their grant money. And of course, everyone in Nebraska, certainly should and can email their board member. But I do want I think it's very important that districts understand that my vote next year is going to be contingent on that January vote. So that was kind of my little prepared statement, my sticky notes from this morning. So, all right, any other comments or thoughts on this item? Okay, the motion is to authorize the commissioner to approve new and expansion early childhood grants. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Douglas.
Yes.
Penner.
No.
Christensen.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Techmeyer.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
No.
Neary. Jones.
No.
4 yes, 3 no, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to approve new and expansion early childhood grants is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.2.g?
Yes, I move to authorize the commissioner to contract for professional learning for leaders grounded in the science of reading.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to contract for professional learning for leaders grounded in the science of reading. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, the motion is to authorize the commissioner to contract for professional learning for leaders grounded in the science of reading. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Neary. Techmeyer.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to contract for professional learning for leaders grounded in the science of reading is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.2.h?
Yes, I move to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Career and Technical Education State Model Programs of Study and Standards Revision Project.
Second. It is moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Career and Technical Education State Model Programs of Study and Standard Revision Project. Is there any discussion on the motion? The motion is to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Career and Technical Education State Model Programs of Study and Standards Revision Project. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Penner.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Techmeyer.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Neary. Christensen.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Career and Technical Education State Model Programs of Study and Standards Revision Project is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.2.i?
There is. I move to authorize the commissioner to accept the 2025 ACFR audit report.
Second. It is moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to accept the 2025 ACFR audit report. Is there any discussion on the motion? The motion is to authorize the commissioner to accept the 2025 ACFR audit report. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Neary. Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to accept the 2025 ACFR audit report is adopted. Item 7.3, Chair Lisa Schoenhoff will report on behalf of the Planning and Evaluation Committee meeting.
The Planning and Evaluation Committee reports on 2 committee meetings since March 5th, 2026. The first committee meeting occurred on April 29th, 2026. The members present were Lisa Schoenhoff, Sherry Jones, Deborah Neary, and Kristen Christensen. The committee discussed the priority school designation. The second committee meeting occurred on May 7th, 2026. The members present were Lisa Schoenhoff, Sherry Jones, Deborah Neary, and Kristen Christensen. The committee reviewed 6 action items related to the Rule 11 teacher waiver request from Ord Public Schools, approval of Hyannis Public Schools waiver request, approval of plans of corrections for Rule 10, 14, and 18 school systems, approval of non-public schools for the 26-27 school year, approval of interim program schools for 26-27 school year, and the priority school designation. The committee recommends board approval on these items. The committee reviewed discussion items with NDE staff, providing summaries and answering questions related to the accreditation of public and non-public Rule 10 school systems for 26-27 and the accreditation of Nebraska Educational Service Units for 26-27 school year. The committee reviewed informational items related to the Social Studies Content Standards Review, the approval of educator preparation programs for 26-27, the approval of new interim program schools for 26-27, and the conditional approval of new non-public school systems. NDE staff will bring informational items to a future meeting for discussion and subsequent approval where appropriate. This concludes the Planning and Evaluation Report.
Are there any questions on the Planning and Evaluation Committee report?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
Liz.
just have one. Sorry, I saw that there were items related to the social studies content standards review, and I just wondered if you could provide where we are in that review process.
Sorry. I'm going to refer to Allison. Allison, do you want to come up? We did get a really nice hard copy.
Hello, Allison Denbesti, Academic Officer. What we have at this point is what I refer to as a polished draft. It is not yet the final draft. We have been revising the 2019 College and Career Ready Standards for Social Studies since June of 25. So it's about an 18-month process. We wanted the board to see the draft that we have now. Our next steps will be releasing an embargoed copy to district leaders, curriculum directors, non-public leaders. They always request that they get sort of a preview copy. That, with the board's approval, will go out today. They'll have that for almost a week. Then next Thursday, the public input survey will open over this draft. And that's really the final step where we take some input over the proposed revisions. We then would take the opportunity over the summer months to evaluate that feedback, make any adjustments to the standards. We plan then to bring a final draft to this board in August, anticipating a request to approve the revised standards in September.
I know there's a lot of interest across the state in this, so the public will be able to provide input at some point in June?
That survey will open next Thursday. And it will be on the main NDE website as well as the social studies page. We send it out broadly to all of our contact lists. And yes, we absolutely want that feedback.
Great, thank you.
And Allison, am I correct? It runs through June 10th?
That
that's what I wrote down yesterday.
I have it right here.
May 14th through June 10th?
Yes, 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, so we'd really encourage the public to do that.
Yes.
So go to the NDE website, and then to access it will be on the main page. Will they have a link?
There will be a link to the survey, yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Allison. We're still on our committee report, and we have two board members who you just read a ton of discussion and things that you went through in planning evaluation. We just completed voting on all of the budget and finance. We have two members who sit on both of those committees. So I just want to thank both of you for all your work yesterday. It was a lot to go through and prep for. So thank you. All right. Is there a motion on item 7.3.A?
I move to approve the Rule 11 teacher waiver request from Ord Public Schools.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the Rule 11 teacher waiver request from Ord Public Schools. Is there any discussion on the motion? The motion is to approve the Rule 11 teacher waiver request from Ord Public Schools. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Neary. Jones.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to approve the Rule 11 teacher waiver request from Ord Public Schools is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.3.B?
Yes. I move to approve the Hyannis Public Schools waiver request.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the Hyannis Public School waiver request. Is there any discussion on this motion? The motion is to approve the Hyannis Public Schools waiver request. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Penner.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Neary. Douglas.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to approve the Hyannis Public Schools waiver request is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.3.C?
Yes. I move to approve the plans of corrections for Rules 10, 14, and 18 school systems and interim program schools.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the plans of correction for Rule 10, 14, and 18 school systems and interim program schools. Is there any discussion on the motion? I had emailed Brad Dirksen, who sits over certification, about the plans of correction, and he gave me a timeline of what they have to do if a violation is found, when it's found, and then the school system has until September 1st of this year to correct the violation and submit documentation to NDE verifying the correction. If the correction is made, no further action is taken by our department. If there is no documentation of the violation being corrected, NDE would recommend the school system for accreditation on probation for the current school year. So I thought that, because my question was, what happens? And if they continue to not correct the violation after February 21st, 2027, that they would then be recommended for non-accreditation when he comes to us next year. So I just wanted to know what's the teeth behind this, so with these plans of correction. So I just thought that was valuable information for board members. Any other questions or comments? Okay. The motion is to approve the plans of correction for Rules 10, 14, and 18 school systems and interim program schools. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
Neary. Schoenhoff.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to approve the plans of correction for Rule 10, 14, and 18 school systems and interim program schools is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.3.d?
Yes, I move to approve the non-public schools for the 2026-2027 school year. Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the non-public schools for the 2026-2027 school year. Is there any discussion on the motion? The motion is to approve the non-public schools for the 2026-2027 school year. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Christensen.
Yes.
Neary. Jones.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to approve the non-public schools for the 2026-2027 school year is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.3.e?
Yes, Madam President. I move to approve the interim program schools for the 2026-2027 school year.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the interim program schools for the 2026-2027 school year. Is there any discussion on the motion? The motion is to approve the interim program schools for the 2026-2027 school year. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Neary. Penner.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to approve the interim program schools for the 2026-2027 school year is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.3.f?
Yes, I move to designate Omaha Northwest High School, Baird Secondary School, and Scribner Snyder Secondary School as priority schools. Second.
It is moved and seconded to designate Omaha Northwest High School, Bayard Secondary School, and Scribner/Snyder Secondary School as priority schools. Is there any discussion on the motion? Lisa?
First off, I want to thank the staff that took part in revamping the process for identifying schools to be put on the priority list. I know I have said this in the past, in that there seems to be a stigma that comes with being on the priority school list, and as a teacher, as an educator, as a mom, as a taxpayer, I think that when we have kids that are failing to read and do math at grade level, by the time they get to high school and beyond, then we need to be seeking out every bit of help that we can get to make sure that we are setting up an atmosphere that provides for optimal growth in our students. The committee decided that for the time being, that these schools are, we're going to watch the process unfold. My concern that I mentioned is if we have kids that are showing up to the doors in high school that are not reading and doing math at proficient levels, by that point, they could even be several grade levels behind. That all plays into teacher retention, because if you're a 10th grade teacher and you have kids in your classroom that are reading at a 3rd grade level, that's frustrating. We also have talked extensively about dropout and chronic absenteeism, and if you think about being a student in a 10th grade classroom reading at a 3rd grade level, of course they're not going to want to go to school or show up. It's very defeating. And so my question was, and still is, if we even spend $80,000 per pupil, because that happens, to get these kids where they need to be at a high school level, are we spending time and resources on something that might be unattainable? I don't know. So for the time being, I am going to kind of watch things unfold and see where we end up with this process, but I'm also encouraging to think about focusing on elementary schools and middle schools in the future. I am not totally sure about having 3 high schools at this point, but that is what the committee had agreed on. And so I'm willing to watch it play out to see what happens. I am new to this. I did work in priority schools in Kansas City in the past, but not here in Nebraska. So this is going to be an ongoing learning experience for me, and one that I take very seriously.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? The motion is to designate Omaha Northwest High School, Bayard Secondary School, and Scribner-Snyder Secondary School as priority schools. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Christensen,
Yes.
Neary, Jones,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Techmeyer,
Yes.
Henner.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to designate Omaha Northwest High School, Bayard Secondary School, and Scribner-Snyder Secondary School as priority schools is adopted. Item 7.3.g, this is the accreditation of public and non-public Rule 10 school systems for 2026-2027. Board members, are there any questions or discussion on this item? Item 7.3.h, accreditation of Nebraska educational service units for 2026-2027. Board members, are there any questions or discussion on this item? I have one. Mr. Dirksen, can you come up? Okay, so my question is, every year you bring us the ESUs that we have to accredit, but I really don't understand our jurisdiction over them outside of accrediting them each? Because they all have their own boards, they all function under ESU, CC. So can you help me understand this before I have to vote next month?
I can try. Brad Dirksen, Department of Education Administrator. The ESUs are created in state statute. They're also under the general provisions of the board to provide accreditation status to the ESUs. Core services for ESUs are outlined also in state statute, the things that ESUs have to do. The board has established Rule 84 as some additional requirements within rule in regards to what the ESUs need to do, which mirrors a lot of what's in state statute, plus some additional requirements, and also more so the processes that they need to go through for that accreditation process. So we have been reviewing ESU documentation that they submit and evidence, and then we bring those lists to the board. Does that answer?
A little bit, yes. So then, have we ever not accredited an ESU, or have any of the ESUs ever had to have their plan of correction?
Not in my recollection or my term since 2018. We haven't had any ESUs have any like violations or any issues based upon our current processes. We're always reviewing regulations and rules and looking to strengthen those processes. Not to say that ESUs are acting badly by any means. I don't want to imply that. But we're always continually reviewing all of our processes.
Yeah, I wasn't implying that they were breaking any rules. I just didn't know if we had ever had that situation. So you said, I wrote down Rule 84?
Correct.
All right, well, we might have to, I will go home and read that because I want to know more. Thank you. It really wasn't like I'm not against ESUs per se. I just wanted to know why we accredit them every year. Thank you. Okay. Item 7.4, Chair Maggie Douglas will report on behalf of the Rules and Regulations Committee meeting.
Sorry. Okay, I apologize. The Rules and Regulations Committee reports on the May 7th, 2026 meeting of the committee. Members present were Vice Chair Kirk Penner, Liz Renner, and Elizabeth Tegmeyer. Committee members reviewed the report on rules. Committee members reviewed revisions to Rule 11, regulations for the approval of pre-kindergarten programs established by school boards or educational service units, and for the issuance of early childhood education grants. The public hearing was held on April 27th, 2026. The committee recommends approval of this item. NDE staff provided information on potential revisions to Rule 6, regulations and standards for uniform sharing of student data, records, and information. NDE staff provided information on potential revisions to Rule 19, regulations regarding school enrollment. NDE staff provided information on potential revisions to Rule 55, Rules of Practice and Procedure for Due Process Hearings in Special Education Contested Cases. NDE staff provided information on potential revisions to Rule 59, Regulations for School Health and Safety. This concludes the Rules and Regulations Committee report.
Are there any questions on the Rules and Regulations Committee report? Is there a motion on item 7.4.b?
Second.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 11. Is there any discussion on the motion? The motion is to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 11. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Jones.
Yes.
Neary. Renner.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 11 is adopted. Is there a motion on item 6? We are now moving to additional business. Is there a motion on item 6.3.b?
Yes, I move to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Nebraska Improvement Grant projects.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Nebraska Improvement Grant projects. Is there any discussion on the motion? Lisa?
Yes. Is it okay if we have Lane come on up to answer some questions? Thank you, Lane.
Good morning.
So, hi. So first of all, I just want to say, apologize for the last minute notice. As President Tetmeyer had mentioned earlier, there's a long list of things to get through in the week, and this was one that kind of jumped out at me last night. So here are my questions on it. The item is regarding the Nebraska Improvement Grant projects, and it looks like there is an amendment to the contract. It's not a overly large amount of money. It's $100,000, which to me is a lot of money, but I always hear it's just a drop in the bucket with education spending. And so as I looked through some of the information, one of the things that jumped out at me was we keep hearing cross-agency teams, and so I want to know who these cross-agency teams entail, and then also evaluating student records, facilitate moving data between multiple agency data systems, student data matching processes, automated extraction and data transformation processes, integration of new data into existing NDE data structures, and exploration of student transcript delivery processes. And so that's a whole lot of data. And I had mentioned to you, and I know this has kind of nothing to do with this, but also something to do with this when we look at data breaches, such as the most recent one with Canvas, but there's been several, Power School and others as well. I think it's our job to make sure that we're really protecting our constituents, especially our smallest constituents, which are kids, and making sure that we're protecting their data and what we're doing to ensure that, because I'm sure Canvas and Power Schools and these other online platforms think that they're doing everything that they can to protect the privacy of data. And so that's pretty much what my questions are around, as well as the Go Live efforts and what does that mean.
Sure. Thank you. Well, good morning. I'm Lane Carr. I'm in our commissioner's office, and in my team is the Systems Involved Youth Coordinator and the 2 registrars that will be supporting these efforts. This is a relatively new responsibility for the NDE, and that can be found in 79-303.01. It is the result of LB 296, which came about in 2025 and was championed by Speaker Arch at the time. So the purpose of all of this work, the people that we are employing, and then this data system specifically, is to support the educational outcomes for systems involved youth. So what we mean by that is those who are in the foster care system, those who are in probation, and those who might be transferring from a YRTC, for example. So when we speak about the cross-agency collaboration, this is not possible without DHHS, Nebraska DHHS, Nebraska Probation, and the court administrator, which is under the purview of the Nebraska Supreme Court. So those are the entities that are involved with this. And the purpose of it is, as we know, students that are systems involved move around quite a bit. So they might be in a Rule 18, for example. You just had a conversation about Rule 18s. They might be there for a short amount of time getting education, and then those records are transferring to a YRTC if that's the support that that child needs, and then back to a school district. And during that time, the education is interrupted across all of that. So the purpose of this system is to help facilitate the timely transfer of that data and information. And if it sounds complicated, it is, because a lot of the times DHHS will call them Joe Doe, and in our records it'll be Joseph Doe. And so we have to have a lot of information and a lot of processes that come across and a system in place that can match those students together. Your comments about privacy are especially pertinent here. And one of the opportunities that we are working through is protecting juvenile justice records in this as well, right? Sometimes there are sealed cases. So it's a very complicated process for us. And that's why it's been really critical for us to build out this system from scratch, working with these other partners, because there's nothing out there that you can just buy to help us. We're actually one of the first in the nation to do this kind of work, to really have that seamless transfer of student records. But privacy is utmost for us, and especially utmost for those that have juvenile justice records and those sealed cases. It's top of mind for all of us.
Liz?
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned we're first in the nation to do this, and I'm wondering, will we be documenting this so that we can share this information with other states? And yeah.
Definitely, yes, that's the short answer, absolutely.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Lane. The motion is to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Nebraska Improvement Grant projects. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Neary, Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to contract for the Nebraska Improvement Grant projects is approved. Is there a motion on item 6.7.a?
Yes, I move to authorize the commissioner to award funding from the CLSD grant to the identified subaward grantees. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to authorize the commissioner to award funding from the CLSD grant to the identified subaward grantees. Is there any discussion on this motion? I have a question for our literacy director, Jamie. Yes, a little chair traffic jam. So my question is, I'm just asking you to confirm what I read and believe I understand is that the year 3 recipients receive subgrants in years 1 and 2?
Yes, that is correct.
So a tier 1 recipient, all total then with years 1, 2, and 3 would receive $195,000. A tier 2 would receive $777,000. And a tier 3 would receive $1,320,000.
Yes.
On average. I mean, I know that I saw one tier 3 that was a little lower.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is correct, my information. Okay, that was all. Anyone have questions for Jamie before we? No? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I have been thinking about the CLSD grant quite a bit. In September of 2024, I remember accepting it. I remember sitting in the lodge at Nebraska City. We were down there for our September 2024 meeting, and we accepted these grant funds, the CLSD grant funds, $55 million to radically change literacy instruction in our schools. And now we are looking at year 3 of funding for the grant, and this request that's coming to us is directing 3/5 of that $55 million. So for those who do basic math like I do, that after our administrative fees, that's $30 million to 46 recipients. We have 244 school districts and 17 ESUs in this state. I do not believe that the trajectory of our current plan for use of the funds is the bill of goods that was sold to me in 2024. I was told that with our literacy project and our funding that we would be having all 23,000 of our teachers trained in evidence-based reading instruction. And I believe that the current plan to use the funds is too narrow to accomplish that. I also continued my thoughts on this overnight. When this board set a goal, we have a board goal, but it's a statewide goal, to have 75% of third graders being proficient in reading by 2023. The question was asked, who will be held accountable if we don't reach this goal? And for context, for those who maybe weren't here or maybe weren't following along online, when this was set, Dr. Friesen was our Deputy Commissioner over academics in our department. She retired last month, and we lost a great person that way. Our academic officer, Allison Dembeste, is set to retire next month. The grant funding that pays our literacy director goes through 2029, not 2030. Finally, I don't have a signed contract guaranteeing that Dr. Maher will be here through 2030. So the accountability and responsibility for that goal falls on this board. I thought a little bit more about it, and I was like, you know, Kirk and Deb, they were on the board in 2024, and they're set to go off this board at the end of the year. So that leaves 2 people who are here in 2024, Sherry and me, and we're both up for election this year. The remaining 4 board members who sit around this table who did approve the Nebraska Literacy Project may or may not choose to run again. So ultimately, we as board members must use our best judgment in this matter. And I don't believe that such a narrow use of funds is wise. Furthermore, I do not support funding going to private organizations. As I was told, private schools cannot apply for grant monies, and you will note that there are 0 private school recipients on this list. Yet, we have 3 private organizations, Nebraska Children and Families, Educare, and the Buffett Early Childhood Center listed as recipients. So for this reason, I am voting no on this item. Any other comments?
I do. When this, back to the grant, a couple of years ago, I mean, it was very narrow in scope. There are some school districts, and I'm asking, and maybe somebody can help me answer it. There were school districts that were no way going to get any of this money. Is that correct? Due to their makeup of students. Is that a correct statement?
I don't think that anyone was prohibited from the beginning. It's just we had we awarded years 1 and 2 simultaneously, and those 46 applicants, and now we're just renewing those, and that's my concern.
So it's the
For me
same
personally.
over and over, and no new people coming into
No.
the game. Okay.
I would actually like to hear a response to your comments from Allison or Jamie.
Okay, who would you like to call it? Or Allison?
Dr. Maher,
Allison.
just about,
He said Allison.
okay.
I would ask Allison to come up and respond to what's been said. I would also say the numbers are more narrow than the actual recipients in terms of impact. So I think if you could speak to that, that would be helpful.
Allison Dembeste, Academic Officer. Could you repeat the question, please?
I don't actually have a question, Sherry.
I would just like to hear your response to the numbers that Elizabeth mentioned with because I've asked you questions about that too, on the number of schools that are impacted, because it seemed like it was a very small number, but you gave me information as regarding service units, how many schools have been actually impacted. So I would like more information. Thank you.
So the eligible recipients for the CLSD grant fell into 3 categories. The first, and most likely the straightforward, would be LEAs or school districts, and we do have a number of school districts who applied. The second category was as a consortium, and that's where we have 16 of the 17 ESUs in Nebraska submitted an application, and all 16 were funded. And so collectively, There are about 158 districts. I know it represents 68% of the districts and students in Nebraska that are impacted directly by a CLSD grant. And some of the reasons, we tried to be very transparent from the outset. It was clear that the reporting that the Nebraska Department of Education has to submit to the U.S. Department of Ed was more stringent than we may have seen in the past with previous grants. And we communicated that to potential applicants, that if you apply for these funds, this is what you will be expected to do. Many of our small districts chose to apply as a part of a consortium with their ESU as the fiscal agent and managing the application. But I know of many, many instances, if not all of them, where every one of those districts was at the table as the application was being developed, and they were analyzing data and determining where their needs were. So it really does have a broader reach than you might think if you just look at 56 applications and recipients. Excuse me, let me correct that, 56 recipients. Mm-hmm.
So all of the districts have been given opportunity, but they also were selected.
Yes. It was all districts in Nebraska had the opportunity to apply. As I recall, there were at least a dozen districts that began an application and in the end did not submit it. There was a very thorough review process. As an agency, we issued a request for application that was about a 60-some page document that laid out the requirements and the steps to apply. And then part of the review process, there was a team of NDE reviewers from many offices who underwent training. There was a rubric that was established, and each application was reviewed at least twice to ensure some inter-rater reliability. So following the rubric, scores were assigned, and then the top scorers were the ones that were awarded grants. We were required to meet the requirements set out by the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Office, which was 20% of the funding would go to birth to kindergarten entry programs, 40% would support kindergarten through 5th grade, and 40% 6 through 12. So there were a lot of moving parts to those applications, but we met all of the requirements. Mm-hmm.
I have another question.
Sure.
So have or will opportunities be given, or can they be given to districts not selected?
The NDE has always had the opportunity from the start. If we chose to open another round of competitive applications, we can do that. Our initial approach had been that year one was competitive, and you may recall year one was quite compressed because by the time NDE received notice, we had to staff the office, we had to develop and issue the RFA. And so the intention was that year one would be a competitive grant, and then we had the option for years 2 through 5 to then be more of what we would view as a formula grant, assuming that those recipients followed through with what they said they were going to do in their application. We didn't want to put the burden on the grant recipients to reapply every year from scratch. Now, they do have to submit a brief application that basically says what they've done since their original application and what results they're seeing, but we've only gone through that process once. We know, too, and this is very common with large multi-year grants, what might be anticipated on the part of a grant recipient in terms of an activity, and here's a budget that they'll need. As they move through the life of the grant, some of those budget funds might be unspent. And so if we had any recipients who either don't plan to spend the funds that they've been awarded, or if the NDE determines that they are not fulfilling their obligation under their original application, we have the opportunity to pull those grants back, and we could always issue another round of competitive grants.
Yet one more. So the 3 private organizations receiving money that Elizabeth mentioned, can you respond to that these are private organizations being given these funds? And how are they using them?
There are no differentiations in the allowable uses of the grant. And so the Buffett Early Childhood Foundation, for example, is applying on behalf of children that are served by those centers. And so the allowable activities are professional learning, family resources. They could purchase high-quality materials. I can't remember off the top of my head all of the uses, but there is no distinction between an entity applying and the allowable uses, nor is there a distinction between the application and the evaluation process. And so at the end of the day, it's all about using these funds to impact education for Nebraska children.
So can you explain why private schools were not allowed to apply?
Yes, and I can tell you for a fact that at our first CLSD convening, that was one of our specific questions of our federal programs officers. That was the way the grant was laid out. It was not intended to be awarded to non-public schools. The exception, actually, which is interesting, in the early childhood space, it is allowable that some non-public entities can access those funds.
Thank you.
So were they able to, these districts from the Early Childhood Expansion Grant, did they apply for this money?
I'm not familiar with the Early Childhood Expansion Grant.
So Fullerton Public Schools, Chase County Schools, Nebraska City Public Schools, Ogallala Public Schools, Summerland Public Schools, these are the ones that are on the list that we voted on today that had been reaching out to us. So I'm wondering if they had the opportunity to apply for this.
Of the ones that you mentioned, I am aware that Nebraska City received a CLSD grant. What I don't know without checking my records is whether they applied in the birth to kindergarten entry. I would be happy to get a list of both of those grant recipients and share that with the board.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Sherry?
Well, just for some reason, I thought when we got this CLSD, am I saying that right? That there were some opportunities for non-public, but I must be incorrect. There probably wasn't from the start, huh? For some reason, I thought there was.
Other than within the early childhood space that we've mentioned, they are not direct recipients. I do want to share the messaging, though, that we have shared, especially given that we have a large amount of funding that's going to educational service units, and that is, it's very common practice if there is a large-scale professional learning opportunity that's happening. Say we're planning something for 100 people, and there are some seats that a non-public could occupy. It doesn't drive up the cost of the event. Frequently, those non-public schools are invited to participate. That happens with many of our districts as well as our ESUs.
I can speak to Nebraska City. I have his email pulled up, and it says, regarding the CLSD grant, this funding has been instrumental in strengthening literacy instruction across our district. First and foremost, it has allowed us to adopt high-quality instructional materials for all classroom teachers and support staff in special education, title programs, and English learner services. And then he goes on to say that these resources have enabled us to align curriculum and instruction across general education classrooms, intervention systems, and specialized supports. In addition, the grant has supported professional development grounded in the science of reading, ensuring that instructional practices are consistent, evidence-based, and effective. That's helpful.
Any more questions for Allison? You do.
Let's go back to the individual school districts. How many applied? Do you know?
You're giving me a memory test I might not have been prepared for. I want to say that there were somewhere between 50 and 60. I honestly was a little surprised, and I think that may have been a reflection of the, it wasn't an easy lift. It was a pretty thorough application. And I can also recall that there were only about 3 districts that had applied and were not funded.
And why were they not funded?
Because in the scoring process, it was a point system. And
Can you give me some highlights on the importance of that point system, or what that point system was? It free and reduced lunch? Was it some of that, some of those?
well, the greatest number of points, as a matter of fact, the double point value went to applications that planned to engage in professional learning. And the reason for that is because although it is a large sum of money in 5 years, in many circumstances feels like a long time span, we knew it was going to come to an end. And professional learning is the capacity builder. And so we wanted to strongly encourage that. That was the greatest point value. There were some competitive points that were awarded for districts that had a higher percentage of students who had been identified as free and reduced English learners or students with disabilities as compared to the overall pool of applicants. So it wasn't as though there had to be a certain minimal threshold. It was just looking at all of the applicant pool. There were a small number of points that were awarded. We do have all of those records and notified all of the recipients how they scored and what the rubrics indicated.
You have more? Okay. I do have a question. So Maggie, just the email that you read from Nebraska City, he mentioned that they used it to buy high quality instructional materials, and I believe that that not only is the Nebraska Literacy Project, but also this grant was evidence-based reading instruction materials. So how are we ensuring that it's actually evidence-based and not just what some people consider high quality?
It's a bit of a semantics issue. One of the allowable uses for the CLSD grant from the CLSD office is high-quality instructional materials. And what's interesting is there really isn't, on a multi-state level, an agreed-upon definition of what that means. In Nebraska, we have defined it, as you've indicated, as those evidence-based materials that support higher level, aligned to our standards, that support higher levels of instruction. There are 3 primary resources that are currently available that independently evaluate materials, and we rely on those. They're just a resource. To date, and Jamie could certainly give you an updated report on specifically what's been purchased. I'm not aware that there had been any requests for materials that hadn't been considered as that evidence-based and aligned to our Nebraska standards, or they would have been denied because they have to be in order to use grant funds for them.
I know it's semantics, as you said, and people are using them interchangeably, but they are not interchangeable, and I think that that's a very important distinction that our school leaders and literacy leaders make sure that people understand, is that just because something is green on ed reports, and so that's considered high quality, does not mean that it's based in that neurological brain science of how we learn to read. And so I think that's really important to me. And you know, there's just, it's a lot of money, and we want to make sure that it's being used carefully. As I said, I mean, essentially, I'll be here December 31st of 2030. I'll be here, and so I'm accountable to our taxpayers, to our parents, and I want to make sure that we are really making gains on this goal. So thank you. Any other questions for Allison? Thank you, Allison.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and as I indicated, Jamie Cook is managing this grant and collecting some phenomenal evidence about its effectiveness. I appreciate that I had the opportunity just because I was in the role when it first started. So thank you for allowing me to answer your questions.
Thank you. Sherry?
Well, I'm kind of wondering, if this doesn't pass, what happens? I think that's important to know. Because I really haven't thought about this item as some of the questions that are being brought up. And I'm thinking, okay, so if this doesn't pass, then what? That's important for me to know.
Well, I've been wondering that same thing because I didn't anticipate this at this meeting either. So I would tell you from my perspective, I need to sit with our team and say, now what?
The motion is to authorize the commissioner to award funding from the CLSD grant to the identified sub-award grantees. Would the recording secretary please?
Christensen,
Yes.
Neary, Jones,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
No.
Techmeyer,
No.
Penner.
No.
4 yes, 3 noes, 1 absent.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to adopt the proposed revisions to excuse me, sorry, I was reading. The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to award funding from the CLSD grant to the identified sub-award grantees is adopted. Items 9.1 and 9.2 are information items and written reports for the board. Item 10 is the good of the order. This section of the agenda is intended for board members to offer informal observations of the work of the State Board. Board members may make brief announcements about attendance at future events for the purpose of informing other board members. No business or motions or suggested actions of the board may be offered at this point in the agenda, nor should board members engage in substantive discussion about other agenda items or introduce new agenda items. Kristen.
Thanks. This might be the first time I've had anything for this section. Last week, I had the opportunity to go to DC with the NASB for a federal advocacy group, and it was a big group of Nebraskans, some Kansas folks and some Oklahoma folks, just getting the opportunity to hear what's happening at the federal level and advocate for needs in our states. So just wanted to share some highlights of what we heard and learned and the things that were applicable to our work on the board. First, around the budget, the president's proposed budget is out for FY27. It's really similar to FY26. It included a lot of education cuts, but the good news was that it was level for Perkins funding for Perkins moving forward with that. So that was good to hear. The Perkins grant is up for reauthorization, so this will be the Perkins 6 that's coming up. And this administration has a focus on CTE and apprenticeship, so that we heard that a lot, that they're really focusing on ways that they can increase apprenticeship across the country, how they can continue to support CTE programs, and so wanted to make sure we brought that back as well. We also heard a lot that there's large continued support for early childhood programs across the aisle. Senator Fisher has a bill to expand early childhood learning and early childhood care and access, making the funding more flexible and accessible for families, called the Child Care Modernization Act. So heard from Senator Fisher herself about that. As well as a continued focus on the science of reading. There's the Science of Reading Act, which requires the science of reading to be included in instructional grants. So that's in somewhere in Congress. So heard a lot of good things, had a really great time, and appreciated the opportunity.
Anyone else? Yeah, Maggie.
Mine was fun too, but not to the level of Kristen's. I went to prom in Nebraska City at NCEC BVI, and next year I recommend anyone go. It is so neat to see the students and the families all together celebrating their successes of the year. And my heart was full for like a week, and if you can, I highly recommend going. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you to those who attended in person and who tuned into the broadcast. The next meetings of the State Board of Education are scheduled for June 4th and 5th, 2026 in Lincoln, Nebraska. The May 8th, 2026 State Board meeting is adjourned.